I'm Catherine Collis. I'm one of the faculty counselors at the Bellevue College Counseling Center, and I'm really happy to be doing this webinar-based presentation on managing stress. So as a brief overview, I'm going to first share some information and then spend more time giving some strategies that hopefully will be helpful in terms of managing the stress that you have in your lives better. And we're going to kind of flip between you just watching me and looking at the PowerPoint just because it has information, and I think that might be an easier way for you to take in some of the information as well. So let me just move this along. So how do I switch between?
Oh, we can turn off your.
So to start with, we all experience stress in different ways, but sometimes it can be helpful to have sort of a working definitions of what stress is. So these are a few different kinds of ways of thinking about stress. And one is an imbalance between demands and resources. So the demands that are placed upon us and our actual or perceived resources, there's an imbalance between those two things. Another way of thinking about stress is the survival response. Oftentimes people have heard of fight or flight. We also think of the survival response as fight, flight, or freeze. So literally, if we were sitting in a room and there was a tiger, most people would find that to be a very stressful event, and you might have an instant reaction to either fight the tiger, which may or may not go well, or to flee, that's the flight part, or to freeze and feel like you're not able to really have a reaction at all. Another way of thinking about stress is from a physiological perspective, and I'm actually going to talk more about this in this session here. But a way of thinking about stress from the physiological perspective is that when we are physiologically aroused, that has both positive and negative aspects to it and can be really helpful and can also be kind of harmful. I'm just going to move this along. So positive aspects of stress. So we often don't associate stress with something positive, but in actuality, from the physiological perspective, having some level of stress or having some level of physiological arousal is absolutely necessary to be able to do the things that are demanded of us. So stress can be looked at from the physiological perspective as a source of motivation, a state of readiness, or being more alert, also a reminder of responsibilities and commitments. So sometimes people might think of themselves as like, you know, I've heard students talk about being in the zone or being on target, but you're really motivated and alert and ready to do what you need to do from a physiological perspective. This is something, and I don't know, I think I can make this a little bigger. Okay, so this is something that I like to use a lot when talking about the physiological aspects of stress. Sorry, I'm moving this around. So stress is kind of on the bottom, the horizontal, and then performance is along the side, that vertical. So if you think of stress, or if we think of it as physiologically something that's happening in our body, the low amount of physiological arousal or stress is we're asleep, we're unconscious, we're not physically doing anything. But as that physiological arousal rises, we become more alert, we become more motivated, we become more attentive, and then there's often described as an optimal level of physiological arousal. So for example, using an example of a test or a presentation or something that you have to do, having some optimal level of physiological arousal enables you to be able to do that and to be able to do that well. But when your physiological arousal or stress gets to be too much and is no longer helpful for you to do what is asked of you, you start experiencing anxiety or disorganization as some examples. And we'll talk more about other examples of how that physiological arousal or stress may manifest. And let me make it a little smaller again. So again, the helpful and unhelpful. So from a helpful perspective, we think of stress or the physiological arousal as eustress and the unhelpful as distress. And you know, that's not really that important to remember. But there are different ways to recognize if the level of stress is helpful for us or not helpful. So we can recognize these things from a physical perspective, emotional perspective, behavioral, or from like how we think. So physically, one way of recognizing if your physiological arousal or stress is more than is helpful at that time is you might physically start to shake, or your blood pressure might rise, or you might start sweating more. These are some indicators that your physiological arousal is no longer helpful for you. From an emotional perspective, you might find yourself becoming angry. You might find yourself interacting with others in a way that's not typical for you. You might find yourself irritable or snapping at people. You might also think of yourself as not necessarily being capable of doing as much. So that's kind of the thought, so I deviated. But from like a behavioral perspective, you might find, or others might recognize this, that you are forgetting to do things that are part of your regular routine. You might forget to turn in an assignment. You might forget to attend a meeting that's really important. You might forget about certain obligations that are outside of your student or work roles. Something about your behavior is shifted in a way that is atypical for you. From a thought perspective, one of the ways of recognizing if your physiological arousal or stress is not helpful is sometimes people use the word catastrophizing, or things like the shoulda, woulda, coulda, or thinking that you're never going to be able to do something, or it's a kind of black and white thinking. These are different ways that one might recognize if their level of physiological arousal is becoming more than what's helpful for them. So that's kind of the information part, but from how to manage stress better, which I find most people, they appreciate strategies more than just information. So these ones that are listed up here, the diaphragmatic breathing, guided imagery, progressive muscle relaxation, mindfulness, and time management are different strategies or interventions that can be used to help manage our stress or how we physiologically respond to things that we perceive as stressful. So from a diaphragmatic breathing perspective, and often, well, I don't know if there can be questions and things, but has anyone heard of the belly breathing? Yeah, okay. So as a way to kind of demonstrate this, and okay, so how do I flip back to myself? Okay, so a way of thinking of the diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing, and before I kind of demonstrate it, we often breathe from like our chest area, but we don't breathe from our diaphragm. So if people have or currently are involved in like vocal performance things, a lot of musicians, a lot of singers, they're very familiar with diaphragmatic breathing because they breathe and they sing from their diaphragm. But you can't really see me very well, which is totally fine. But if you literally were to put your hand on your stomach region, yeah, so, and we'll walk through this, like I'll say it and then I'll demonstrate it. But if you were to put your hand on your stomach region and you were to breathe in for about 2 to 3 or 4 seconds, and then you breathe out for longer, so like 4, 5, 6 seconds or so, and as you're breathing in and then breathing out, you're literally feeling when you're breathing out, you're feeling your stomach push out, so you're breathing from your diaphragm. So if you breathe in and then breathe out, you can literally feel your stomach moving, and oftentimes people don't breathe that way, and they breathe from up here. And breathing is one of the #1 ways to change your physiology. So I would encourage people to use this as a strategy, and I would encourage people to use it not necessarily at a time when they're experiencing heightened stress, because one, it can be really hard to remember to do that. But if the diaphragmatic breathing, and this is something that people have to intentionally work towards to be able to have it be more of a natural way of breathing. But if you integrate diaphragmatic breathing as regularly as say you would brush your teeth in the morning. It's just part of what you do and how you go about your day. You are continually shifting how you experience stress and physiological arousal. So that's kind of one strategy. I'm not going to utilize the guided imagery as an example. Sometimes when I do presentations like this, or from even a counseling perspective, we'll go through a guided imagery together, and I'm not going to do that because we don't have time for all of these. But a guided imagery is basically a way of thinking about something that you identify as relaxing and calming. So some examples might be like a beach, it might be in the woods. I mean, it's different for everyone, but something that you identify as very relaxing and calming. And you think about that place, that idea in a way that's connecting with your senses. So when we go through, there's guided imagery scripts, and it usually takes about 15 or so minutes to go through this, but you're connecting that image with your senses in terms of what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you smell, things like that, as a way to connect that idea of something that's relaxing for yourself in a way that when you're connecting with it from the five senses perspective, it's another way of impacting your physiology. The progressive muscle relaxation is another strategy. It's more active than the guided imagery, and I'm actually going to go through a progressive muscle relaxation. So for Pierre and, is it Shachki?
Yep.
I think I mispronounced that.
That's correct, Sakshi.
Shachki, thank you. So you can do this as much or as little as you want, but I'm going to go through a progressive muscle relaxation script. So at any point in time when I go through this, if you want to stop, you can. So don't feel that you have to continue. But I'm going to go read through this, and this is going to take a fair amount of time. But just wherever you are, if you can get in a comfortable position. So for example, if you're both sitting in a chair, if you sit in the chair with your feet flat on the floor, and take a few of those diaphragmatic breaths, some deep breaths. And if you're comfortable doing so, you can close your eyes, but of course you don't have to do that either. So I'm going to start reading through this. As you let the rest of your body relax, clench your fists and bend them back at the wrist. Tighter and tighter. Feel the tension in your fists and forearms. Now relax. Again, clench your fists and bend them back at the wrist. Tighter and tighter. Feel the tension in your fists and forearms. Now relax. Feel the looseness in your hands and forearms. Notice the difference with the tension. Now bend your elbows and tense your biceps. Tense them as hard as you can and observe the feeling of tightness. Let your hands drop down and relax. Feel the difference. Again, bend your elbows and tense your biceps. Tense them as hard as you can and notice the feeling of tightness. Let your hands drop down and relax. Feel the difference. Turn your attention to your head and wrinkle your forehead as tight as you can. Feel the tension in your forehead and scalp. Now relax and smooth it out. Again, wrinkle your forehead as tight as you can and feel the tension in your forehead and scalp. Now relax and smooth it out. Imagine your entire forehead and scalp becoming smooth and at rest. Now frown and notice the strain spreading through your face. Let go, and again frown, noticing the strain. And let go. Allow your face to become smooth again. Squeeze your eyes closed, tighter, and now relax your eyes. Again, squeeze your eyes closed, tighter, and relax your eyes. Let them remain closed, gently and comfortably. Now open your mouth wide and feel the tension in your jaw. Now close and relax your jaw. Again, open your mouth wide and feel the tension. Now relax your jaw. When your jaw is relaxed, your lips may be slightly parted. Notice the difference between tension and relaxation. Now press your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Experience the ache in the back of your mouth. Relax and press your lips together. Relax your lips. Feel the relaxation spreading in your scalp, forehead, eyes, jaw, tongue, and lips. Let go more and more. Now roll your head slowly around your neck. Shifting as your head moves. And then slowly roll your head the other way. And relax, allowing your head to return to a comfortable, upright position. Now, shrug your shoulders and bring your shoulders to your ears. Hold it and drop your shoulders back down. Again, shrug your shoulders and bring your shoulders up to your ears. Hold it, and then drop your shoulders back down again. Feel the relaxation spread through your neck, your throat, and shoulders. Pure relaxation. Now breathe in and fill your lungs completely. Hold your breath. Experience the tension. Now exhale and let your chest become loose. Again, breathe in and fill your lungs completely. And hold your breath. Experience the tension. Now exhale and let your chest become loose. Continue relaxing, letting your breath come freely and gently. Notice the tension draining out of your muscles with each exhalation. Next, tighten your stomach and hold. Feel the tension and relax. And again, tighten your stomach and hold. Feel the tension and relax. Now, without straining, arch your back and keep the rest of your body as relaxed as possible. Focus on the tension in your lower back. And now relax. Let the tension dissolve away. And tighten your thighs. Hold. And relax. Again, tighten your thighs and hold and relax. Now straighten and tense your legs and curl your toes downward. Experience the tension and relax. And straighten and tense your legs and bend your toes towards your face and relax. Feel the comfortable warmth and heaviness of deep relaxation throughout your entire body as you continue to breathe slowly and deeply. You can relax even more as you move up through your body. letting go of the last bit of tension in your body. Relax your feet. Relax your ankles. Relax your calves. Relax your knees. Relax your thighs. Let the relaxation spread to your stomach, into your lower back, into your chest. Let go more and more. Feel the relaxation deepening in your shoulders and in your arms and in your hands. Notice the feeling of looseness and relaxation in your neck, in your jaw, your face, and your scalp. Continue to breathe slowly and deeply. And your entire body is comfortably loose and relaxed, calm and rested. So the relaxation is now concluded. You can open your eyes if they're closed and stretch if you'd like. So another way of looking at, or another way of doing this is, if it necessarily wasn't through the presentation, I would have allowed you to stay in that state of relaxation for pretty much as long as you wanted, but for the sake of the presentation, it's good to just kind of conclude it. So as I mentioned, sometimes when I do these kind of presentations, I'll alternate between the progressive muscle relaxation to doing that like I did right now, or the guided imagery. And the guided imagery, progressive muscle relaxation, and all of these strategies are strategies that you can utilize to better manage stress that you experience. And some people have very different reactions to some of these. So some people really like the progressive muscle relaxation, like they really like that and feel that that is helpful for them. And some people would prefer, as an example, the guided imagery, which is slightly different, and pretty different actually if you think about it from like the active perspective. Like with the progressive muscle relaxation, you're actively doing things with different muscles in your body. The guided imagery is not that at all. It's more getting in touch with the things that you're thinking about and connecting those with your senses. So those two, they're very different, and people tend to have different kinds of reactions to both. So with mindfulness, sometimes I also will go through different strategies to facilitate mindfulness. But one way of thinking about mindfulness is, like after this presentation, for example, like if you are walking somewhere. So when we're on campus, oftentimes students are walking to class, or they're walking to a parking lot, or they're walking to where they have to work. But to think about, to really to get in touch with the things that are around you. So oftentimes, in part because we're stressed and we're very busy, we're kind of on autopilot mode. Like if you've ever thought about walking from point A to point B, or driving from point A to point B, and not really remembering the actual walk or the drive, but to be more mindful about that, to think about what is it that you see in front of you, what is it that you hear, what is it that you feel under your feet. Do you recognize the color of the trees around you or the flowers? Do you recognize the things that you're hearing, whether it's people talking or buses that are going by or the birds chirping? To really connect to the things that are around you is another way of thinking about mindfulness. sometimes when we do these kinds of presentations, we'll do a mindful eating activity. We're not going to do that today because I would pass out something to eat, but it's another way of thinking about being mindful. Oftentimes we eat very quickly, so the mindful eating is a strategy to help you to really slow down and to observe the different aspects of what you're eating as an example. And for time management, and I am going to advance some of these slides. So the next few slides, sometimes I just have these up if we're doing different things. But with the time management, and oftentimes people talk about time management, so my intent is not to lecture on time management, but oftentimes when we're very stressed and we have multiple demands upon us, which happens often, and often we think that those demands are out of balance with our resources that are available, we forget to prioritize things. So one way of looking at time management from this perspective is to think of things that are urgent versus important, and to really distinguish between the two. So this next slide, and I don't know if oh, do they have this? They don't have this, the slide up. Is it on me now?
Yeah, because no, it's
they have slides.
both.
Okay,
Yeah.
they have both. Okay. So one way of thinking about the urgent versus the important, I think they actually have a typo on there. But in that first quadrant on the top left, if you were to, for example, develop a list of all the things that are demanded upon you in a given day or a given week or whatever time frame you want, and to literally make a list of those things, whether you're writing that list out or thinking about it, and to prioritize them. So are these things on the list, are they urgent? Do they need to happen right away in whatever the right away time frame is for you? And are they important to you? So if they are, they would, as an example, go into that first kind of quadrant up there, that quadrant 1. Quadrant 2, the top on the right side, are things that are not urgent but important. So if we look at this list of all the things that are demanded upon us, what are the things that are important, but they don't have to happen right away? They don't have to happen today, and they may not even have to happen this week if we really sit and think about it. Now, sometimes we think things have to happen right away, but if we think about it in the context of all of the things that are demanded upon us, it might not have to happen right away. Quadrant 3, the lower left one, is urgent but not important. So if something has to happen right away, but it's also not important, that's something to think about, because then if it's not important, it doesn't really have to happen. And the urgent nature of that is that from one's own perspective or from someone else's perspective. And then the last quadrant, quadrant 4, the not urgent or not important, if, for example, you're coming up with this list of things that are demanded upon you because you're kind of stressed out, the not urgent and not important, is it possible to literally move those things off of the list and to take that kind of off of your plate? So sometimes doing an activity like this, which is, yes, making a list, whether you're literally making a list or you're just thinking about these things, it's a way of prioritizing things to help you to identify for yourself in this list and how they're separated into different quadrants if you're thinking about those categories. Your list might be different than someone else's list. Your list of stressors most certainly is different than someone else's list of stressors, but also how you prioritize things based on this urgent and important idea is also probably going to be very different than other people. So it's just another strategy to use. So if I go back to this next slide, these are some strategies that we regularly offer, and whether they're students seeking services from the counseling center, but also a lot of private practitioners who have different clients, because stress and anxiety management is one of the #1 reasons why people will seek counseling services. And it also is something that impacts our ability to do whatever it is we want to do. So these are some strategies, and I would recommend that people try them. And sometimes, depending on, our own lived experience, some of these may seem more natural for you. Some of them may seem kind of weird, actually. Some of them may seem like they're never going to work. But I would encourage you to try some of these, because sometimes if we're wanting to think about how we can manage our stress better than what we do, sometimes doing things very differently is one way of doing that, while being also mindful that different strategies work better for different people, and different strategies work better for different people at different times in one's life. So let me move a few slides over. So this is just the last slide on the PowerPoint. Anyone taking classes, regardless of the nature of those classes, are able to access counseling services through the Bellevue College Counseling Center. And we like to let everyone know that our services are free and they are confidential. So students have access to services at Bellevue College, like the library as an example. It's another service or tool to help students be successful. And so is the Counseling Center. And students will meet with the Counseling Center for as many different reasons as you can imagine. Some students might meet with a counselor for only one time, and some students might meet with a counselor for much more than one time. We describe our services as short-term, which is about 6 sessions, but it's about 6 sessions, sometimes less, sometimes more. And again, sometimes students will come for 1 or 2 sessions, whatever works for them at whatever time in their life they're seeking services. So I always like to share that information, that it is free and confidential, and it's another resource or service available to help students to be more successful, help them reach their goals, and help them manage all the things that are demanded upon students. So the Counseling Center is located in the B building, so if students know where the bookstore is on campus, we're pretty much right above the bookstore. And you can schedule appointments in a number of ways. You can call the number that's listed up there, or you can stop by the Counseling Center front desk to schedule an appointment. And we have on our website, which is also listed there as well, we have links to all of the counselors so you can see pictures and you can read bios about counselors. So students are able to schedule an appointment with just any counselor, or you can also say you want to schedule an appointment with a specific counselor. Students do it both ways. So I would encourage you to utilize that service. I also encourage you to utilize some of these strategies, and they will have access to the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't know about handouts, so if we were doing this, if we were doing this presentation on campus, I'd give you a little brochure about the Counseling Center, a copy of the PowerPoint, and then another little card, but I'm not sure how to go about doing that.
I can do that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's really it for now. Thank you for participating in the webinar, and for those who might look at this in the future.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.